Good evening. So, do public restrooms make you nervous? Me too. I have traveled the country and have been to 4 out of 7 different continents and 50 of the US states. And I have to tell you, the state of the public bathrooms that I've seen widely range from the good, the bad, the ugly, and very, very occasionally, the great. I've twice been invited to China to consult with their government on restroom design, and I've even been invited to, by the US State Department to consult with a Chinese delegation on how to bring American toilet innovations over to China. I've been invited to India, where I've done a workshop for people who suffer from shy bladder syndrome, and there are 220 million people in the world who do. This is a social anxiety disorder in which people have difficulty using public restrooms when other people are around. And I have also been to the UK, to Australia, and to Russia, where I happened to meet my wife, who's sitting in the audience. And I have to tell you that the conditions are just very, very different everywhere I go. Why am I involved in these issues? Well, other than the fact that since I was a teenager and have suffered from shy bladder myself, I'm truly concerned about the state of the world's toilets. That, for example, look at this picture of bathrooms in rural China. This is in the school system. And if this is bad, you can't imagine what the conditions are like in India, where people, 70% of the population, don't have access to toilets at all, and hundreds of millions of people are defecating in the fields surrounding their homes. Some have said that the state of a country's civilization can be judged by their toilets, and I couldn't agree more. But this doesn't take developed countries off the hook. When you go to places, for example, in the UK, you will find situations like this. How many people can see the situation in France where there is toilets in the public and tourists coming through who have to witness this? In Russia, during perestroika, which is when the fall of communism happened about 30 years ago, people ended up urinating in the streets during a period of political and social upheaval. So there are many situations we see where the public toilet situation is deplorable. Now, if we go over to the UK, how many women in the audience can relate to this line in the bathrooms? Okay, I thought so. It's ridiculous, and this is why civilized cities like New York have passed a potty parity bill, which requires there to be a 2-to-1 ratio of women's to men's toilets in all public spaces. There are so many reasons that people detest public toilets. There was a study done recently by IKEA, and it showed that the number one reason that people preferred to work at home rather than the office was to avoid the communal bathrooms. In a USA Today article, it was reported that 50% of all school children will not use the bathroom in school for a variety of reasons, including cleanliness issues. And this doesn't even include people who have incontinence issues, people who suffer from shy bladder, and a whole host of other conditions that make it difficult to find a good public bathroom in practically any city in the United States. I was in Port Deposit, Maryland, a while ago, and needed to find a toilet rather quickly. And luckily for me, I had my cell phone, and I pulled it out and essentially used the app Toilet Finder, and within 2 minutes had found a public restroom very close by and was able to use it, and not only that, to rate it for its cleanliness. Now that's what I call technological innovation. But there are other issues too that affect people in society. Take this situation, family restrooms. We have a number of parents with children, and even though the situation has improved in the last 5 or 10 years in being able to find family restrooms, there are still few and far between. And anyone who is a parent in the audience can tell you what it's like tugging along several children and needing to find a restroom to be able to use with them. Then there are people with special needs. For example, someone who might have had their colon removed and need a colostomy bag. Well, where are they going to take that bag and be able to dump the waste properly? And it's almost an impossible situation for people who have that condition. Then we get to the issue of transgender people and public bathrooms. Now, this has been in the news for the last 5 years at least, and it's unfortunate that it's become such a public controversy because essentially there's a very simple and elegant solution to this problem. And an organization called the American Restroom Association, and yes, it exists, and I co-founded it, is working on a simple, elegant solution to the problem, which is simply to have a grand-scale porta-toilet system where you would have separate water closets for men and women and non-binary people, and you could go in and use it, and then you come out of the bathroom and essentially have a common sink area which everyone can use. This design has actually been approved by the International Plumbing Code to go into effect in 2021. We lobbied for it, and you're going to see in the next decade a move toward these kinds of bathrooms in many, many public facilities. There are many other organizations working on toilet issues across the world. We have the World Toilet Organization, and this group was founded by Jack Sim. He is a businessman in Singapore, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Jack, and he's quite a character. He likes to celebrate World Toilet Day, and yes, there is one. And not only that, it's brought to you by the UN November 19th of every year, so put it in your calendar. Essentially what Jack does is he gathers people together, and he will have them eat out of clean, never used toilet bowls and have a meal together. And that's how he celebrates World Toilet Day. But there are other organizations that work on these issues. Two are the International Paruresis Association and the Shy Bladder Center, which are organizations that I co-founded. And these groups are working to help people who suffer from that debilitating condition of paruresis, as it's called medically, where they cannot go with other people around, or even sometimes in their own home if they have guests over. If we peel back the layers and layers of issues there are around toilet issues and public elimination, we find some very fascinating things. A number of years ago, I wrote an essay called The Evolution of the Bathroom. And it's great toilet reading, by the way. And one of the interesting things in this piece is I traced back the history of the toilets and elimination issues, and I have to tell you, it goes back to the dawn of civilization. So we have been struggling with this issue for a long time. So in ending my talk, I'd like to leave you with the following question. There is going to be a world toilet revolution, as the Chinese are fond of calling it. And the question I have is, what role are you going to play in it? Are you going to be non-participants? Are you going to be silent bystanders? Or might you join me in this worthy and noble cause, and in the words of the great and wise Rabbi Hillel the Elder, who 2,000 years ago wrote, but not about public toilets, "If not now, when? And if not me, who?" Thank you very much.